exclusive, first ever, valued up.
What is up, y'all? Episode 2, Valued Up Podcast. Here we are, man. Long awaited ever since we launched the first one.
Long awaited. The streets have been talking, man.
Bro, it's been a week,
Dude.
but it feels like an eternity, right?
I've been waiting for this, man.
Every time we get on this table, man, it's a great thing.
Absolutely.
I look forward to it. Doing our homework, getting our editing during the week, but this is our game time, man. All the preparation leads up to getting on the table.
Absolutely, man. This is so cool, man. Like, just how everything has came to fruition. And I was even telling you before we started shooting is just how I woke up when the first episode launched. And I woke up with so much just excitement because of preparation, months of preparation, months of learning.
Months before here we are.
Coming to this moment. And this is just where the journey begins. Like, y'all are just seeing all of this happen now. It begins for y'all now, but we've been at this for months, man.
Oh yeah, it's like that iceberg mindset, man, where I mean 80% of the iceberg is below water. And people just get to see the polished 10% that is this.
I wouldn't even call it polished.
Still in the ocean.
You know?
Yeah, it could be polished,
right.
You know what I mean? You could get some people, some hikers up there on the Antarctic freaking, peak just polishing it, but that's the mindset behind it is people don't really understand the behind the scenes what goes into something. And it's just not podcasts. I mean, it's everything. It's really any and every personal endeavor.
It's life.
Look at professional sports. They talk about all the time the preparation. The game is just the play, right? If you're in a play, it's months of preparation of learning your lines. It's months of preparation of perfecting your skill set when it comes to acting. How many takes does it take to actually get that? But then you see the movie and it's just this big polished product. That's that 10% tip of the iceberg that sticks out the water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what everybody gets to see right now. And it's funny because here we are obviously recording episode 2, which I'm super excited about, but we just hit play this morning and launching episode 1 on YouTube. And let's start that journey as a whole was something. I mean, obviously we had some difficulties. We hit y'all last time with episode 1 talking about we want people to see behind the curtains. We want to have the vulnerability, the transparency, and boy, do we already get to share our first failures. What does that look like, man?
I think getting pride and ego out of the way is one of the biggest things because you don't ever want to, especially where we're coming from, you don't want to make everything seem so perfect because it's not relatable.
Relatable.
Life is not perfect. And when people look so polished, I think it detracts more than it does create inspiration.
Oh, for sure, man.
Because there's so many examples of people that have money that have podcasts, right? Like they have businesses that do large overhead and they're like, yeah, man, we could drop 50 grand on getting a podcast ready and it's good to go. And
has a team right out the gate.
It's the best of the best. And we're just not in that position at this moment of recording episode 2.
Exactly.
But I feel like that's more relatable to somebody that wants to, start their first podcast or business or just even start their journey in the gym, right? Like what we're doing is relatable and translatable to no matter whatever you want to do to start, because in order to succeed, you first suck, right? The first 3 letters of succeed
everything
is suck, right? Suck. And you're going to suck a big fat one. And that's okay. And just like I mentioned, I think in our first episode, we want to build belief to where it's like, those guys sucked. But fast forward 5 years, you see that we did suck, and now we're on the mountaintop, and you're like, damn, I should have not let those 5 years pass me by. Let me not let another 5 years pass me by, because if they did that and they're there, I know I can pass them. I know I can be better than them, and that's what we want. We want to build belief. We want to create that inspiration, and that's what Valued Up is.
That's the epitome of it, man. And just like you said right there, right? You just have to be willing to embrace the suck. It's suck, succeed. You know what I mean? It takes a while until you're able to add the second CWED.
Wait, you're sucking the seed?
Sucking the CWED, bro. You know what I mean? Until we can actually hit the succeed button, you have to be willing to go into it. That's the milestones.
Yeah.
The sucking is the actual stepping stones that you get. That's what polishes you. That's what actually perfects your craft. So to give the viewers a little bit of a backstory, right? Because so we launched at 7 a.m. on the dot this morning. We didn't realize until about a couple hours later that the audio track was completely messed up. Yeah. You got 2 minutes of polished product and then it went haywire. And that was our uploaded product, right? And we obviously here we're talking about the fact that we are months behind the actual launch of the first episode, and then the anticipation, the anxiety, the excitement from us, like, okay, we actually get to upload our first episode, and then boom, we realized that first episode was a complete failure. But it's definitely okay.
Failure?
It was a failure in the moment, right? But it depends how you look at it in the moment. And that's what I really wanted to get into right now, because what I was telling you behind the scenes a little bit earlier was me 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, but definitely 5 years ago, was that pride and ego thing definitely stood tall on my back. If this happened 5 years ago, I would have completely freaked out. I would have started sweating. Yeah. You know what I mean? The fact that we put out, it ruined the whole day. We put out a product that absolutely was not perfect. And it was like, oh man, what are people going to think of us now? They're going to think that we're incapable. They're going to think that we can't provide ultimately what we're going to look for. And then this just shoots us dead in the moment right away. But as soon as, this morning, obviously it it uploaded, went out to the masses at 7 a.m. I get a phone call from you a couple hours later, like, bro, we have a problem. It went a little haywire. And the first thing is, okay, let's tackle it. Let's see what's going on. Okay, boom, let's get into the audio tracks, our editing software, see where it messed up. And didn't even bat an eye at it. Yeah. It was like, okay, the early risers that decided, because we did have a handful of views, I think like 10 views with our unpolished product. Yeah. And, a couple of people reached out, shout out to y'all that wanted to tune in first thing early in the morning. And y'all got to see the unpolished product. Now here we have, uploaded the finished product. I had to get in there, fix it, make sure it was good to go. And then it was. But that's so exciting, man. What we were talking about, episode 1, we were like, we want to give our viewers behind the curtain, allow you guys to see our failures. And then we've had our biggest failure to this point, uploading our very first podcast. Yeah. You know Absolutely. What I mean? And so, again, not being able to bat an eye, but just understanding like, nah, this is cool. I actually welcome that, because it lets people see that that's what true success actually looks like. It's not a facade. Everything doesn't go right 100% of the time. You just have to be okay, work with it, go with the flow, revamp yourself, get back in the game, and then keep on pressing.
Absolutely. And I think actually you, Mr. Silson, was the one that said in the previous episode, the true testament of a leader is building the airplane while we're flying it, or something to the effect of that. Well, that's what happens when you are doing it as you go, right? You kind of foreshadowed everything that's happening, right?
Exactly.
Like, we're being authentic to what happened. And by the way, it's okay, right? Like, now is the time to fail. Now is the time to look stupid. Now is the time to look incapable, because I'd rather look incapable now when very few people are watching, rather than being the GOAT or on the mountaintop and making, simple failures like that, or not even, I don't like that word, but simple mistakes, and be like, wow, this guy's so great, but he's making mistakes in this arena, exactly. Right? At that pinnacle. I'd rather make the mistakes now. Yeah. I'm not that good. I'll never be that good.
Exactly.
And I don't ever want to put on the facade that I am that good.
Yeah, we are not the guy.
But we play the part that we actually speak about. Like, our word is our bond, and now we're just staying true to our word, which I think is cool, right? Like, we are those authentic leaders.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, this was a perfect example of what that looks like, to jump out of the plane first and build your whatever endeavor that you're doing.
We didn't do it on
the
purpose.
Way down. We didn't do it on purpose.
We shot for perfection.
Yes, but we got off the runway. We had an engine blow.
Yeah.
But
we had a circle back.
Exactly.
Land, yeah.
But the thing with that is, so many times, so many people might allow that engine to blow, and they're like, screw it, let the whole plane crash.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
This is too hard for me.
Yeah.
Why even
potentially
continue?
Not even get back on the runway.
Exactly.
Where it's like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Flight, but I'm going to be on my Denzel in this moment. They had like an emergency landing, where the only thing in that movie that could happen in order to save the whole 737 Boeing airliner was was to make a crash landing and save everybody. He ended up flying the airplane upside down, a 737 upside down, and then tapped the nose on the ground and landed that way and saved everybody. You know what I mean? And that's what
Shout out to Denzel.
Denzel's that dude. You know what I mean? Not only is he a GOAT, my number one actor, but doing things like that. That's the epitome of what that actually means. It's not letting a flat tire, not letting a blown engine stop you from getting to your ultimate destination. It's like, beep, 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 beep. The emergency lights are going off. Now we just got to go out, be cool, calm, and collected, be like, you know, we have hundreds of passengers behind us. What are we going to do in this moment? And that's the mark of the true leader. But you know what leads up to that point to be able to fix it in the moment is the preparation. If you're prepared on the front end, this is exactly what the months and months and years of past experiences, mindset, growth, attitude has led to. Once we have a failure, okay, click on, put the fire out, get the other engine going, get it roaring, boom, get back on flat or get back on your track, and now we're flying smooth.
And it's so funny, just everything that you just mentioned was, you know, I think so many people get a flat tire in life. Yeah. And then they get out of their car, get frustrated, and then pop all the other three tires because they're frustrated and they're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. When it's just, no, it is what it is. And when your intention to succeed in whatever you're doing, you're going to encounter barriers. You're going to encounter, you know, missteps.
Exactly.
But what do you do about it? It's how you respond to those things, right? You could be proactive all day long, but you also have to be successful in being reactive as well. You don't always want to operate reactively.
No, you want to be as proactive as you can, possible, but keep the skill set in your back pocket of reaction.
Exactly. And when we were in the Air Force, they would always say the key to air power is flexibility. See, we didn't even talk about this before, but we already knew. Airmen. Yep. Exactly. Yeah, the GOATs.
Yeah, exactly. and even though last episode, if you remember, you said I was one of the slackers, which really wasn't the case. We was a couple of GOATs in the squadron, but I just had to throw that back in there. Yeah, man, you were like, I was the star airman child, and everybody, they were like, you know, Honeysett, why are you working so hard when everybody else is kind of slacking?
I don't remember saying
behind
that.
The scenes, and you're like, you silly are one of them. I'm like, dang, bro, you got to throw shots at me. And I believe if that was truly the case, we would have been in sync like that, bro. So I want to give my own personal Air Force flowers from you, bro.
Nah, bro. I don't remember.
No? I can't even give Air Force flowers.
What I'm saying is I don't remember saying that. I probably was joking or being facetious.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah. But I just had to clear the air. No, I was a fantastic airman. Bro.
Absolutely, you were.
Appreciate you.
Yeah,
man.
you were.
Shout
Gold star, bro. Gold star, bro. It, yeah, I got you. But yeah, flexibility. You have to be flexible because nothing ever goes according to plan. How many times were we sitting in operations and we were going to do a raid or we were going to do, you know, a strike or something like that, and like things just wouldn't go according to plan. Like nobody was just like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to happen? Or let's just fly home. Exactly. Like it wasn't like that. It was just like, okay, what was the plan B? What are we flexing to? What's the next steps to where we can still make this happen? And that's where you ultimately need to get to with your mindset, because there's going to be things that happen. A tire will get flat. Yeah. You know, you don't just blow up your car because of it. You're like, you know what, forget this. You know?
But going back to those operations, what's actually crazy about that is the operations that we were a part of within the military. We're talking counterterrorism. So the operations that we had, it could be the most minuscule thing that went off course that would trump the whole thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because we had to be so precise in those operations that we were doing.
People's lives are at the line.
People's lives were literally at the line. And if we potentially made a mistake, and so we were all source analysts, we were intel analysts providing the intel, you know what I mean? And so we lived in the land of preparation, of proactiveness. We told our pilots, hey, if you go around this corner, this is probably what you can expect to happen. Right. But we're not fortune tellers. Right. And so once you go on a mission, something else slightly could have happened. Maybe a kid ran out into the street, abort. But what are you going to do in that moment? You're going to give up the entire mission and put, you know, our entire country at stake because of one time, you know, single thing? No, what happens is maybe we do have to fly home, but it's like, okay, was that just a one-off, or were we off on our preparation? Right. And then we get back in the game. We go back to the books. What could have we done better? Exactly. Yeah. And then how many times did that happen? And then we carried out a successful strike and saved many lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just taking the extreme ownership aspect of things. It's like when you don't look at things as like, oh, this happened to me. It's like, oh, well, what could I have done better to actually make things successful. That's where you ultimately need to get to with your mindset. Because I feel like that's right so there, freeing, man. When you just,
oh my gosh,
it's so easy to blame other people, but it's also so freeing if you take the blame, and not in a self-deprecating way or hit a place that hits your self-image, which there is that line. And until you really have that strong emotional intelligence, like I don't feel like most people can get there. They have to really work their brains and their mindset to grow to that place to where it's like, oh, I messed up, but I'm not a failure, right? Like, oh, I failed at this, but I'm not a failure. It's like, oh, I missed this. What could I have done to prevent this, right? If you always look for, I mentioned change, the first step to change is awareness. If you can always look at, hey, what could I have done better? What is the next step for me? Where do I need to look at my blind spots? If you do that, you're getting better and you're building the future you to actually handle whatever comes your way. You know what
exactly.
I mean?
And I have a perfect story for myself. Is what you're talking about is actually one of my biggest weaknesses that I had in my prior, growth journey. I used to come up with an excuse for everything that might have went astray. And the number one foundation, the number one reason for that was I was so fearful of my personal image, right? If I messed up,
the perception of me,
if I messed up, I didn't want other people, I didn't want that mess up or mistake to take a hit on my credibility, especially when it came to my leadership and bosses. So when you work a job, I think that's the number one, whether it's intentional or intentional, the number one fear factor that comes with having a 9-to-5 is I can't mess up because my boss, my leadership will come down on me.
Right.
Well, this just happened a couple of months ago, and it was a test to my, I got to put it in actual practice, was I did drop the ball on something. And it was pretty big. It wasn't going to be the detriment of anything, or
nobody died.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be the detriment of anything like that. But I got a email from my boss, and there was a couple of us that were not at stake, but there was a couple of us involved, and he was like, hey, what happened here? Clearly there was something that, happened. Which one of you did that? I was sitting here, already started sweating a little bit, like, shoot, man, it was definitely me. I didn't mean to do that. I see exactly what happened. But so many times in the past, I would have came up with a perfect excuse or even potentially lie to save face, what I mean? But then what that does is down the road, you're going to have so many roadblocks where you're going to have to remember your lie. Exactly. You're going to have to remember the excuses. And then you're going to get caught down the road because you're going to, things are going to happen after the fact.
And you look worse.
Yeah, you look worse because things are going to happen after the fact that you weren't even accounting on. And then it's like, there's no other way that it couldn't have not been you.
Yeah.
So in the moment, I was like, oh, shoot, like, what can I say? Then I was like, silly, Ryan. Just be 100% authentic, take extreme ownership, own it. So I immediately hit an email back. I was like, hey, boss, like, that was 100% me. I take it. It had nothing to do with him. It was me. I take my mistake. Here's how I messed up. Here's what I'll do moving forward. And then I got an email like 5 minutes later, was like, dude, thank you so much for that ownership. Let's just get better moving forward. And that was the end of it. And then it was actually on the pat on the back, like, and then guess what that actually produces? Instead of you looking worse, credibility. Yeah. Now my boss, and that was my boss, not my direct supervisor. And now he's looking at me like, okay, well, that dude's not afraid to make mistakes. He's trustworthy because he owned up to it. That's who we can rock with. Yeah. But a couple of years ago, that never would have been me, man. So that's a journey that it took me so long to succeed at.
It's so funny, too, how that all works, right? Because, like, even though you messed up, you actually did the right thing, and that gained more credibility, more trustworthiness within your leadership.
It's so like countercultural how that works.
And so most people are like, oh no, I don't want to like take ownership for that. Like I might get fired.
Yeah, I'm gonna get in trouble.
But that's that perfectionist mentality, and it's always a detriment. Like
always, dude.
Perfectionist mentality is always a detriment to you and the other people around you. When we're taught that, like, being a perfectionist, like that's what allows you to succeed. That is what holds you back. That's what keeps you in your comfort zone. That's what prevents you from moving on, because it's something that's unattainable, and the byproduct of being a perfectionist only is going to make you look bad.
Exactly. And then the process of that, every time those moments come into play, it actually works for your betterment and your growth.
Yes.
Because a lot of times what ends up happening when you get good at something, that's what happened to me. That mistake happened because I was lackadaisical, because I got so good at my job. You know, I was not following the checklist to 100%, you know what I mean? Because I know what the process looks like. Boom, boom, boom. I missed a step, and then here we are. You know what I mean? But the moment that you get that email from the boss, it's like, oh, shoot. I'm going to own it, but now I got to tighten up. You know what I mean? And so that forces you to go back to the drawing board and re-solidify yourself like, okay, I got to take ownership, but I also got to do better.
Right.
Because that happened because I got too comfortable.
And that's the thing about change, right? Like, first step to change is through awareness, right? If y'all didn't hear me talk about it, just here it is again, right? But the opportunity to change is all around you.
Oh my
it's
gosh.
just whatever you look for.
Man.
It's whatever you look for, right? It can be imposed on yourself by the awareness from yourself, or it can be the opportunity of awareness from other people around you that call you to step up or call you out on your blind spots, whether you knew it or you didn't. Exactly. You know what I mean? I just got to say, your coworker must have been like, oh God, thank God Ryan stepped up and said something.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's like, oh dude, was that me? Was that actually
That's
me?
what I'm saying. And
then the dude gets fired and you're like,
yeah,
ooh,
that could have been the worst case scenario. Then how bad would I have felt? And it was funny because the other person was actually a higher position, other than me.
Right.
But now I built credibility with him too, because he was like, okay, he didn't. Not only did he eat the bullet, it's not like I took one for the team. It was actually my mistake. I had to take ownership. You know what I mean? But he was the type of dude, though. He's a great dude. What happens if I did lie? He would have turned around and did take one for the team. Right. But then our relationship would never be the same.
Exactly.
But now I just hit credibility with everybody around me, and now we're rocking. You know what I mean? But like you said, that just is so countercultural. You
walk into the office, people
how
like,
many people.
That's a good dude right there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a solid dude.
And that's how it happens with so many different things. It's everything is actually like that. If we took the fear out of things and just operated 100% authentic, everybody would be better for it.
So why do you think that we do things that actually don't benefit us? Like, why do you think we're actually told things that don't benefit us? When we live in the smartest generation,
most educated,
most
informative,
access to information.
Yes.
Why are we taught to do the wrong things?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's taught. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't think that we're taught to do the wrong things. It's actually the fact that we don't embrace the right things enough. It's not that we're taught the wrong things. It's that we're not taught the right things. And that's why we're in the leadership realm, man, because that's one of the biggest gaps out there, is to actually teach your people what that literally looks like to operate in that manner. We just get so succumbed in the 9-to-5 world where we just have to do our job. Our supervisor is just doing their job. Their supervisor is doing their job. And we're not taking a step back to actually groom and lead and grow people, because guess what? We all have the fear of losing our jobs. I have the fear of losing my job. If I screw up, my supervisor has a fear of losing their jobs because I'm not doing what I need to. So that takes a hint or a dip on their credibility as a leader. Right. And then that just trickles forward. Instead, we need to take a step back, take the time to actually teach our people what that literally looks like. And that's a great reason of why we're stepping into the field that we're doing with leadership, because that is one of the biggest gaps out there, especially in corporate America. Not just corporate. We're taking our leadership to, sports teams, corporate America, everywhere. Entrepreneurship.
Leadership is everywhere.
And I love that you say that, because that's what I was, leading into, is the fact that leadership is synonymous in every endeavor opportunity out there.
Even
leadership
in your house.
Principles are principles.
Yeah.
They're, plug and play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing right there, is we're not taught. And so since we're not taught, going back to your question, the answer for me is what I said earlier, was I think that everybody has the fear of perception. Everybody does not want to look bad. And we get so scared of what other people think. That's why young entrepreneurs, that's why 9-to-5ers, that's why athletes, so many people don't take that next step, because they're afraid of what other people are going to think of them.
Yeah.
And so that lack right there. And that's why if the leader stepped in and was like, hey, I'm going to take you under my wing, I'm going to provide that protection over you. I'm going to teach you of what this actually looks like, so that when you encounter these situations, you can be authentic, you can be truthful, you can bite those bullets. And if you do all the right things and somebody still comes down on you, that's where I got your back. You know what I mean? And then we can have a conversation with that leader that came down on you, because most people that come down on you, they don't have all the information. If we can go have a sidebar like, hey, I know this is what it looks like on the surface level, but actually X, Y, and Z happened. They took the right steps, but this happened. They did make a mistake. And then it's like, okay, I can actually rock with that. You know what I mean? But so many times these days, those conversations are not being had. You know what I mean?
Why do you think that is?
Just what we were talking about now, man. It's just
they're tough conversations.
The tough conversations, but just the lack of true leadership. Because there's a strong difference between managerial and actual leadership.
Yeah.
A leader can always manage, but a manager, there's times where not all managers are actual leaders. You know what I mean?
Right.
A manager will manage the products, they manage the people to get to the end result, to get to the end state. But they always don't lead, because you can get to the end state without grooming your people, growing your people, having accountability around your people, helping your people step up, having accountability around them yourself as well. In my personal opinion, it can happen. You can still get to the end result. It's kind of false. It won't be solidified. It's not a strong end result. It's a facade that can, it's like the Three Little Pigs. That foundation is built on straw. It can be blown over at any time. Versus if we have leadership behind the management that needs to take place, that foundation, we're laying bricks, man. And that's actually one of my favorite sayings is, if you're making deposits in personal growth, it's called laying a brick. We're laying a brick every single day. We're laying another brick. We're laying another brick. That's building your foundation, you know what I mean? So as leaders, if we're laying bricks, we might make mistakes along the way, but that mistake is not going to be a detriment of the end result. Versus if you're just operating out of fear and people doing the least capable job to get the job done, which we all do because of lack of motivation.
Path of least resistance.
Exactly. That end result is going to fall apart like a cheap tent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So what do you think the difference between management and leadership is?
The difference between management and
because
leadership,
not to cut you off, so many people get those things synonymously confused, and a lot of times they can go hand in hand because leaders manage, right? But managers can't lead.
Exactly.
Right? Because if you identify yourself as a manager, it's a different approach.
Exactly.
It's a different approach than what a leader approaches when it comes to his people or an organization or whatever it may be. But I'd love to hear your definition between, or not definition, but what's the difference between both?
Yeah, so the difference between both, in my honest opinion, is what I talked about earlier. It's the process behind things, right? I think if you're looking at a puzzle, a manager is just making sure that they have all the right puzzle pieces and they're getting put together. You know what I mean? Where a leader is shaping and forming the actual puzzle pieces. A manager is working with the puzzle pieces that they already have and trying to put them together. You know what I mean? But they don't even know if that puzzle, the pieces belong together. Where a leader is like, okay, this puzzle piece is not fitting appropriately into this puzzle, so I'm gonna take this puzzle piece right here, I'm gonna reshape them, I'm gonna form them into they need to become, and then they're gonna fit perfectly into that slot. So managers, in my honest opinion, you could be a good manager. That's why I said you can get to the end result, but there's going to be gaps in that leadership. Those puzzle pieces, if you're not taking the time to sharpen your people, aka those puzzle pieces, they're never going to conform together 100%. Right. You know what I mean? There's always going to be those little gaps.
Yeah.
And the more gaps that you have in that larger puzzle, once it's put together, the more leaks you're going to have. The easier it is for that puzzle to completely fall apart. Whereas if you just, as a leader, it's like, this is my lab. And here's the thing, man, as a leader, it starts with oneself. You don't even have to be in a leadership position, but what I like to say is no matter what position you are, you could be a direct supervisor of 3 people, you could be a direct supervisor of 20 people, or you're not even in a supervisory role yet.
Right.
However, you can still be a leader. You can't always be a manager because there's no people to manage, but you can be a leader. And what I always like to say is you are the personal CEO of whatever position you are at.
Yeah.
If you only have 3 people, well, I'm going to step back and I'm going to create a culture centered around these 3 people. I'm going to take my 3 people and I'm going to sharpen them. I'm going to form them. Right. We're going to work together, create that nucleus, and then our puzzle piece is going to be sharp. You know what I mean? our puzzle piece is only 3 pieces. I can't control what the rest of that puzzle looks like because those leaders are managers. But where my team is going to fall into this larger puzzle piece, we're going to be so tight knit that we're never going to break apart. You know what I mean? And people recognize that. You know what I mean? So whether you have 3 people or 20 people or no people, it starts with you. If you have no people, well, guess what? Set the tone by operating in a level that you want to operate as you already had people. Do that yourself. Show people what that actually looks like. I've had a lot of times where I wasn't in a leadership position myself. However, other leaders came to me and there was like, dude, I love that mindset. I'm implementing that myself. Exactly. And what does that mean? They're not your direct reports, but you're still making an impact. And that's therefore you are a leader.
Exactly. Because leadership is influence.
Leadership
is influence. And the key word that you said probably about like 3 sentences back was you're going to show. Leaders model.
Yes.
Leaders model. And how you create influence is by modeling, right? And I think a great testament of what a leader is by creating more leaders, right? Like managers just manage systems and people, but leaders create leaders, right? Like that's how a good leader operates, is by delegating and creating new leaders to step up. As a good leader, your goal is to get yourself out of a job. Exactly. Not in the sense of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to give my job away, but you're preparing your people for what you can do.
Well, what's the mark of a true leader? The mark of a true leader is not how you are personally performing as a leader. It's how your team is performing. You are a reflection. You are a reflection of your team, and that's the mark of a true leader.
And that's why leaders take extreme ownership, good or bad. And that's why you need to prepare your people, because it is a mirror, good or bad, right? It's like, dude, my team sucks. Well, be careful with your words because you suck.
Yeah, exactly.
You suck.
You know, what are you doing? Are you managing the systems? You know, maybe it is the lack of a system, but true leadership can fix the lack of any type of system by sharpening their people.
It doesn't matter if you have a bad apple in your team either.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Because that's the thing if you want to talk about that with a true leader too, you're going to just focus 90% of your aptitude on the people that you see potential in. That doesn't mean that you neglect the AKA bad apples, because I've seen plenty of times a bad apple was because they had bad leadership. You put them in a different environment, you give them a different opportunity, they flourish, and then they become a great leader themselves.
At one point in time, I was a bad apple because of bad leadership, and I felt that and I experienced that.
Yeah. So what do you think led? Did you have a leader take you under their wing, or how did you get out of the perception that you were a bad apple?
Well, it's kind of weird, right? Because I had a great leader. This is going back to my time in the Air Force, where I'm talking specifically and what I'm remembering in my mind, but I had a good leader, great culture. We were all close knit. Everybody was doing what they needed to do. We wanted to show up every day to work and do what we needed to do because it was exciting. We were, actively participating in something bigger than us. We felt it. And then that person got transferred to another I think base section, or squadron or something like that. And then we got a new leader who was kind of just promoted based off of, it was the next positional thing for them to do, not because they were actually good or groomed to be a leader. It's just kind of the next step for them.
And that's called positional leadership,
which is the lowest level of leadership
exactly
that you can be at, right? Because how many levels of leadership are there?
Because it's your time. You just get put into a position.
Right.
Because you were next in line. It had nothing to do with were you capable or not. And then that's where the trickle effect comes in. It was probably to no fault of that leader. It's just they weren't groomed themselves.
They didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, but that also affects your people. That's why if you're not in a leadership position, lead yourself, because eventually you will be.
Exactly.
Whether work, something you build, a family, or just the importance of leading yourself on a day-to-day, it's so important, right? But going back to my story is I felt that, right? Like the lack of leadership, everything from good leader to bad leader, everything started to change because there was a lot more freedom, because there was no structure, because there was no vision, because there was no systems, right? And when you do that, people start doing whatever the freak they want to do. It's like they just lose their minds.
There's no cohesiveness. There's no culture.
No communication.
Exactly.
Right? And so that all
took accountability.
Took a step back. And now we're all trying to, have a knife fight for power because we know how to do things, but now everybody's pulling the rank card, like, oh, I'm this rank and I'm this rank and I'm like this rank, right? And that's a frustrating game to play rather than, hey, what's the overall mission? What can we do about that? And when I was definitely a young airman when this happened, to where I was just like, man, screw everybody. And I, kind of turned into just like salty, disgruntled employee. Bro. I was a salty airman at the time, because I knew that we were more capable than what we were operating at that point in time. But that leadership really destroyed that entire unit. And it wasn't until that leader left, because very much in the Air Force, it's so structured to where you have a voice, but to a certain extent, to where the rank card gets pulled so much that you're like, all right, I just have to wait a couple years for this person to be gone or get transferred in, a year or so, and then things will get better. And you just kind of have to embrace the suck and do the best that you can. And guess what? When that leader left and we got a new leader in, that person had great leadership.
Exactly.
And things started going back to what they were before, because that person actually had previous experience leading other people, creating culture. And it was just like, those last 2 years didn't even exist.
Exactly. And from my personal experience, I love that story.
You were there,
Well, I was there during that too, but even so, how I was able to operate during that situation. And I even talked to you. I had conversations with you on the side while you were going through that.
Yeah, but I didn't listen to you because you were a problem child. Apparently, exactly. I said
that. Exactly. I was slacking, bro. I was not, but I did have sidebars with you during that time, because I had just came from a place myself where I had experienced the same exact thing. So this time I saw it unfolding. I called it from the very beginning, taking a step back, and then I saw it unfold. And then we had an instant connection. And so I was like, bro, just trust me, we got to operate in this manner over here. Things will get better. And what that manner that I, tried to instill in you, and was what I'm going to tell everybody else, was what we actually don't realize was it's so easy to become a saltine, like we were just talking about.
Because everybody's doing it.
Everybody's doing it, because it's like, why am I going to go forth and put in effort? Number one, if it's not seen. Number two, it's not going anywhere. Number three, it's not heard. You know what I mean? And then we look at other saltines, and it's like they're getting away with everything. Yeah. Why am I going to put forth effort?
Right.
But what I quickly realized is, if you operate in that manner, you're always going to be a saltine in the eyes of even other good people. So I said, no matter what's going on here, I'm going to control what I can control, and I'm going to always operate how I should.
Right.
Not going directly against my leader, but within my own personal realm with what I can control. I was always like, okay, I'm going to operate in this manner no matter what. People used to call me a bucking bronco, because I was untamed. Like, I would buck, I would push, I would question everything, which can seem like a bad apple. But if you do that so much, but you back yourself with the right decisions, you back yourself with credibility, like, nah, it may seem off to you, but here's my line of thinking, here's X, Y, and Z, here's why I did it. And I always said, if I operate in that level right there, I'm never afraid to have a conversation with your leader, with the highest leader, with the leader's leader, because I know that they'll understand. If we sit down, the three of us in a room, I'm looking at a bad apple, I'm not afraid to be like, no, sir, actually, I operated in this manner because X, Y, and Z, which you taught me. They'll be like, oh, shoot. This dude, okay, maybe it wasn't that they have a sucky team. That's actually the right way to operate. Right. Maybe it is this leader. I'm going to take this leader and work on their leadership as a whole. And so guess what? I was no longer the bad apple in everybody else's eyes. And I say that to say, if you do the right thing long enough, there will always come a time at some point where you will shine, where the truth always comes out.
Exactly.
And the truth always comes out.
And that's where, in those moments, because I remember those conversations, because you definitely helped mold me as a young airman, a young adult, which I'm very grateful for. But that's where I learned the importance of intention, because I saw where your intentions were coming from, and character, and how that's the heaviest weight that you'll always carry, because no matter what room you operate in, your character always shines. It doesn't matter, good or bad leader. character and intention from where you're coming from will always show. And that's so huge. And I've carried that and built on that for the last 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And now here I am.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I've had times up until that
But that's
point,
just, not to cut you off,
Yeah,
but
go for it.
that's everything we're talking about with a leader, right? Like you weren't in a leadership position, but
Oh,
leadership
100%,
starts
yeah.
with self. And you're like, no, I'm gonna hold myself to a higher standard. And when you do that, you attract people that have it inside of them. It's buried underneath, but there's that light on the hill that they get to see of like, no, I need to step it up because I know what's inside of me and I know I'm way better than this, but I'm being influenced by other saltines that are holding me back. But this isn't my true form. This isn't my character, right?
Exactly, man. And then you get to operate from that, because you will always get put in those positions for whatever reason. Even if you're doing the right thing, your name will get thrown mud on it. You know what I mean? And that's happened to me since. But I operate cool, calm, and collected, cool as a cucumber during those moments, and the truth always comes out. I had it happen at, my recent job. The same exact thing happened. I was operating, but for some reason the perception was different. But it was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just dig harder in doing the right thing. I'm not gonna become a saltine, and I'm gonna go the opposite direction even harder. And then now I'm, in a great place.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because why? The truth always shines out. You know what I mean? And it happens.
And it's not an act.
No.
It's just who you are. And when you act as who you are, life is easy.
Exactly.
Right?
And it actually came full circle this last time, because that did happen. I actually wasn't doing like really anything to garner that type of perception. It was just, I went against the, countercultural norm, against the team that I got put into. I was questioning them. They didn't like that. You know what I mean? I was coming from my military background, what we did with counterterrorism and everything. I'm in a similar field now, a little bit different, but this was my first job doing this type of work. But that doesn't negate all the experience from other things that I've had. So I took that experience, brought it here, and they're like, dude, what are you doing? And I'm questioning these things. And my response is always that I get back to me is, this is just how we do it. This is how they said we do it. And so I'm like, no. So I started, they didn't like that, whether they thought I was coming from their job or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And that was the biggest thing right there. I'm like, bro, I could give two craps. Number one, I'm not coming for your job because I don't even want to climb the ladder, bro. Like, this isn't my end all be all. I'm doing X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Have you seen episode 1?
Yeah, I know, right? On, exactly. So that's the biggest thing right there. And then I say that to say it came full circle, like 6, 7, 8 months down the road. I had a one-on-one with my boss, and then he was like, it was a midterm feedback or whatever it's called. And it was like, you're doing a great job, keep doing. And I was like, okay, well, this is my time to bring this up and talk about it. And, so I was truthful, and I was like, well, I just have to bring up the fact that this is how I feel my perception is, like, what's going on here. And he literally told me, he was like, oh man, don't even worry about that. What happened was, we found out it was the same person. You weren't the only one that they were saying these things about. They were saying these things about a couple of other good people. They're out of here now. So we realized that was actually false. You are doing great things. Keep doing what you're doing. And then it was like, man, see? You know what I mean? And you could still allow that to be salty for you. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But since that's not my end all be all, I'm like, okay, this is just a little crook in the sand. I don't really care.
That's going to happen no matter where you're at.
But I say that to say it did come full circle. So there will come a time where you're always going to go through that track. Just keep doing the right thing over and over, and the truth will always come out.
Yeah, the truth will always set you free.
It will, man. It
so.
will. So yeah, that's good stuff, man. But what I want to talk about a little bit to pivot is, we're talking about leadership. Obviously, our foundation is leadership, and that's the formation of our company that's coming on the map right now, Valueship Consulting Firm. You know what I mean? Or consulting group, the Valueship Consulting Group. And we are a leadership firm. And that's what we're creating. And that's why this is our skill set. This is why it's our passion.
Right.
Because everything that we're talking about here is the gaps that we see everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
You know what I mean? And so it's a huge market to be able to come in and make the greatest impact that we can. We're super excited about that. Big things are coming down the road. We're not just working on the podcast. We're unrolling a business, which has been in the tuck for some time now. But when it comes to rolling out a business, and this is why we said we want you along the journey with us. The journey started with this podcast. We're going to talk about anything and everything here that adds value to you.
Before the podcast.
Oh, way before the podcast. But here we are talking to y'all, bringing you on the journey with the podcast. And so you get to see the things that are coming out. You get to see how we operate, some of the moves. We'll give mindset along the way to teach y'all how to make these moves. But, we've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, man, because I've feel like, there's people that, are 9-to-5ers. There's people that want to climb the corporate ladder, and not one way is the right way. To each their own. Every way is great. I just say do the best thing, continue to do the right thing in everything that you're doing. But the people that have the entrepreneurial spirit, I feel like, they feel closed in certain situations. Like for me, it didn't matter. I've had probably like 7-8 careers under my belt now, different job titles and stuff like that. And I always come back to the same place of, man, this is not it for me. I just feel boxed in. I feel caged in. Yes. And I'm willing to take a bet on myself. I'm willing to step out. So for our entrepreneurs listening in, I feel like the entrepreneurial spirit is the same thing, because I talk to other friends, I talk to other people, and they're like, yeah, I just don't really have that. I'm okay with where I'm at. I want to climb. I want to do this. So talk about the entrepreneurial spirit. That's why we connected so much. We've done great things in everything that we've had in the Air Force, but what do you think sparked the entrepreneurial spirit for you, and what did that look like for you?
I mean, I think we talked about it in the first episode of just having that hunger and that desire for a bigger destination than what the military could ultimately get me, or even just a job. I knew no matter how hard and how high I climbed, it was still limiting, right? I'm the type of person like, man, let me take the ceiling off and let me just see how far I can go up, right? Exactly. But I just always been a dreamer, man. And the only way that's going to allow you to get to that is by building something, right? Entrepreneurs get paid to solve problems. So I think for me, where it really started was, and we even talked about this in episode 1, is just having that dream, having that desire for a bigger life. I knew that if I hit the pinnacle in the military or even a job, that it wouldn't allow me to accomplish my dreams, right? Not that I'm a materialistic or a money motivated person. Really, the heart of my dreams are for the people around me. I just wanted freedom, man. And I don't believe in freedom when it comes to a 9-to-5, right? Like the fact that you have to answer to somebody else this used to bug me in the Air Force when I had to, I was sitting a mission or operation, which was a big deal, but I had to ask if I could use the restroom. That bothered me, right? Or having to ask to take time off from work. That bothered me. Just personally, it was my life, my time. And literally, if you think about it, you could just leave at any point in time. Yeah. Like, it's my life. It's my hours. I didn't like that. And so I knew it had to be something that I owned. Well, that's what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurs get paid to solve problems, right? And life is filled with problems. And that's why I believe and I know how much valueship is going to add because of the blue ocean that we see within the corporate world or world of organizations or teams or whatever it is, just because of what leadership is necessary for everything that you do. But that spirit, I think, started even before that, just from playing sports, to be honest with you. The ability and the focus to get better each and every single day to reach a huge result, right? Like, I played basketball growing up. I wanted to be in the NBA. Why I wanted to be in the NBA? I wanted a big payday, right? Like, I wanted the payday to pay for my family, to pay for these cars and houses and vacations, and literally live life and enjoy it because of the hard work that I put into that ultimate goal. And when you don't have sports to fall back on, what else is there? Yeah. It's building something as a business, right? Yeah. And I just love the grind, man. Yeah. I love the grind. I love the learning. I love and embrace the ability to fail, aka those are learning moments. Like, I love that because even this past week of what we've experienced, man, how many pats on the back have we just given ourselves, like quote unquote pats on the back? We're not sitting here like, hey, good job, dude. Dude, get me. But
more than my boss has ever given me.
Right. Because we have to. If you want to succeed at your dreams, you have to, man. And I believe everybody has a dream inside of you. You just got to take a chance on yourself. You got to awaken that dream. I literally was having a conversation earlier today with a friend of mine who's like, man, I commend you guys for, dropping episode 1. And he's like, people that are willing to take a chance and bet on themselves. He's like, that's inspiring to me. He's like, I have that inside of me. I just don't know what I would do. Yeah. And then we got to talking. I'm like, man, you got to be passionate about something. You got to. Yeah. He's like, man, I want to do X, Y, Z. I'm like, well, why don't you? Just do it. And life is so short. And I asked him, he's around my age. I'm like, man, how long do you have to live? Like, best case scenario, when do you think you're going to die? Yeah. And he's like, man, I think I'll make it to my like 85. I'm like, okay, well, you have like 40 something years left.
Yeah.
It's going to come fast.
Yeah.
And when I feel like understanding that there is a timeline.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Provides peace.
Yeah.
Not anxiety. Like, I don't get anxiety of like, dude, I got to hurry up and get to my dreams because my life is going to be over. No, I find peace in that. And it's a peaceful like focus.
Yeah.
Like I have to because I don't want to get to my deathbed and have a list of regrets.
Yeah.
Having these dreams inside of my heart and never having that.
Exactly.
Like, so that's kind of where it started for me.
Yeah, I love what you were talking about earlier because I break it down this simple, and you brought it back to sports, no pun intended. The way that I look at my entrepreneurial spirit is I always wanted the ball in my court. You know what I mean? And so
tell him, bro.
Tell him, bro. You know what I mean? You opened up the avenue for me perfect.
Drake might need a feature.
Yeah, we practiced that transition. But nah, for real, man, I just wanted to live a life where the ball was always in my court.
Yeah.
Because whether it's good, whether it's bad, I always have to take extreme ownership because it's always in my control. And I've always had that spirit. Like we talked about last episode, I didn't have the self-belief growing up. So I wasn't a starter, at football, even though I definitely have the athletic capability. Like when pressure was off and I was hooping or playing park football and stuff like that, I showed out, you know what I mean? But when the pressure was on, I never had anybody teach me what that looked like, how to handle that pressure, how to put the fear aside and just operate. But I've always had the spirit where 30 seconds left in the game, we're down by 1, I want the ball. Even starters on the court shy away from those moments. You know what I mean? And I want that moment in life where, like you were talking about, if we only have 40 years left in life, that ball better be in my court, man. You know what I mean? I don't want other people to dictate what I can and can't do. And like you were talking about, just, it probably hit like 28, 29 years old where the thought of being invincible leaves and you just realize how precious life actually is, that we've been given one and only life with absolutely no do-overs.
We got taken like that.
What are we going to do with that life? You know what I mean? And so just being able to operate in that level where like, okay, I want the ball in my court, because if I don't do anything with that ball, at least it was 100% on me.
At least I know. At least I found out.
Yeah, because how many people out there, for good or bad, again, to each their own, but there's so many great employees that were so loyal to a boss, so loyal to a company, just to find out 20, 30 years later, they hit the chopping block. We have so many, layoffs happening around America these days where I see that point blank, where it's like you were so loyal, and because you have too high of a salary because of foreshaping or whatever the case may be, here's a severance check that can't even cover the mortgage, and then it's like, good luck, you have to start over. You know what I mean? And you could have checked all the boxes, you could have done everything, the right thing, excelled, gone above and beyond, but at the end of the day, the moment that you walk out of the building with a severance check, it's like, what did I do all that for? And now I have to start over?
That's a scary
That means
feeling.
the ball was not in your court. The ball was in their court. They kept the ball, told you to clean out your locker. And it's like, crap, what am I doing now? I'm sitting in front of my empty locker like, what do I do now? That's where true fear
Everything
sets
I
in.
knew.
Everything I knew is shattered in an instant. You know what I mean? And I never wanted to feel like that. So it's like, okay, let me at least have the ball. If I fumble the ball, that's on me. If I do great things with the ball, if I hit the last second shot, that's on me.
Yeah.
But at least the decisions come down to myself. It can be a scary place because it comes down, because I do have, I have the entrepreneurial spirit. I'm not going to lie. Even people with the entrepreneurial spirit, there's still days where it's like, there's a split second where stress, comes in and it's like, can I really do this? Can I be responsible for once I have employees where their livelihood is on my success?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, can I really do this? But then that dissipates because the alternative is so far worse for myself. You know what I mean?
And you grow to get to that point too. It's not like, oh, I'm just like, I started a business and now I have all of this responsibility and now I'm in charge of all these people. Like, you expand your capacity, and every time you grow, you keep on expanding your capacity.
Exactly.
So you may not be able to handle, paying for other people's livelihood by having employees, but as you grow individually, you get there and you start to understand and you start to learn. Just like when it comes to the podcast, when we were like, yeah, we should start a podcast. Knew nothing about a podcast. Knew nothing. Then we get the microphones. We're like, okay, like how do we set the microphones up?
The microphones was a must, bro. Like,
microphones are a bitch.
I thought this was plug and play. It's not, bro.
they played
we're just
us.
sitting at the mics.
Yeah,
we're just sitting with the mics.
Then we get the
now?
cameras. Then we're like, how the hell do we connect the microphones to the camera? And
now,
now
what are all these settings within the camera?
And then we learn how to do that. Now we don't even set up the microphones to the camera. You set the microphones to the computer. And then the computer to the, and there's
learning
a whole
the software.
Yeah,
the
and there's a whole
software.
process to learning, and it can be so daunting just looking at the big picture. Yo, just figure out that first step. We got the microphones. Then we figured out the next step. We didn't get all the equipment. It was just like, how the hell do we figure all this stuff out? We did it one step at a time,
man.
After one step at a time.
Out,
and I'm a big believer, right? Like you hear the I don't know if it's a quote, but you hear people say like, oh, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually disagree.
Okay.
And this might be a hot take. I disagree.
We'll see how hot it is. I'll let you know.
There's obviously certain circumstances where people can't, right?
Yeah.
Like they literally just can't, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of those biggest circumstances and why people say entrepreneurship isn't for everyone is because it's a mindset thing, right? Yeah. But if you want to do something bad enough, you'll figure out a way, right? Like think about how bad we wanted a podcast.
Yeah.
We wanted to add value to the marketplace. So we figured it out. When you're passionate about something,
yeah,
what's going to stop you?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're passionate about powerlifting and you want to go compete for the Olympics and you're within that age threshold,
yeah,
go after your dreams.
Yeah.
Like what is stopping you? Nobody else but you.
Nobody.
And if you want to bad enough, if you're like, if I die and I don't get to do this, I'm going to be so disappointed. Life will not be worth living.
Yeah.
I would have wasted my life. You'll figure it out. Right. And I think what people struggle with is not the aspect of entrepreneurship. It's because it's finding your purpose and believing in yourself to actually go and do that. The entrepreneurship is just the vehicle that allows you to make money from what you're passionate about. Be like, oh, I can never own a business, but I'm passionate about making cakes. Well, the business side of making cakes is called having a bakery, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And nowadays you don't even need a building.
Yeah.
You could do it in your house, right? But that's beside the point. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But I think when you have a purpose and you're passionate about something, that lights the spark. And if you let that spark explode, that allows you to figure out a way to leverage that passion.
100%. And that's not a hot take because I agree. I'll play.
It's not a hot take, but most people don't think of it in that way. They're like,
nah.
You know what I mean? Just like I was talking about with my friend. It's like, I just don't know what I would do.
Well, here's why, and here's where I'll play devil's advocate if you don't mind. And why I say that is maybe not everybody has that spirit, and they do just want to job it. And here's why is because this is how we are conditioned these days. Man.
Exactly.
Go to school, get a good job, or go to school, get a good education, get a good job, and you'll become successful.
Program.
But we're programmed and conditioned to not operate in that blank space. We're constantly reminded ever since we're 4 or 5 and hit kindergarten, we're told what to do. We're not taught how to think. We're told what to do. Well, entrepreneurship, you're forced to think. You have a blank canvas. Nobody's going to tell you what stroke to take. Life is not a paint by number. You feel me? You know what I mean? And so if it's not a paint by number, some people don't have the comprehension to put numbers on their own canvas. They're waiting for somebody to tell them, where do I paint this purple? Where do I paint this green? And then hopefully at the end, I have a masterpiece. You know what I mean? And so, but some people, they just don't want the stress of living in the blank space. They want to be told, hey, if I just job, if I show up and I do this, I get my, check. And that's great too, because sometimes people live within their means. They don't really care about it. It's like, hey, I'll job, but I'm a, take what I get and I'm gonna live the best possible life. Because there's other people like, I know people that live on a ranch, you know what I mean? Yeah, they don't have 9 to 5s, but they don't make a whole lot of money, but they're the happiest people that live till like 93, married for 50 years. And they wake up every day singing in the morning, worshiping God and just having a fulfilled life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? and they weren't necessarily entrepreneurs. So
Right.
I say some people are okay with the limits in which they live. It's what enriches you. But the thing that stops people the most dead in their tracks is because since we've been conditioned and told what to do for the majority of our lives, we don't even know how to operate in the blank space. And so it's like we start overheating, you know what I mean? And we start like wigging out, like I don't even know what to do, so I'll just go back to the 9 to 5.
Right.
I need to be told what to do.
But that's why I said that, and I feel like you just proved my point. Thank you so much. But I feel like
That's why it's devil's advocacy. I wasn't proving you wrong. I was coming from a different angle.
okay, I rebuke you.
yeah.
But
Silly's advocacy. There you go,
we
bro.
I like that.
Yeah.
But you made me lose my train of thought. Cut. But this is why I said that entrepreneurship is for everybody. It doesn't mean they need to act on it, but like it can be for everybody because they have that dream. They have that spark, right? And it starts with the dream. Everybody dreams, man. Even if it's just a quick thought, that's there. And if you activate that, the next step is to learn how to leverage, which is the business side of that. Right. But entrepreneurship can be for everyone. But the principles of entrepreneurship for a successful life is 100% in everybody. Right. That's why I believe it's so important to push yourself, man. Like, and push yourself towards excellence, towards leading yourself. That's why we believe leadership is so important. Whether you're in a leadership position, you're a CEO, or you're the CEO of your family, right? Like, everything in life is related to business. Everything in life is related to pushing yourself, and you can take from one aspect of life and add it to the other, right? That's why life is just, it's a self-licking ice cream cone, because everything that you encounter in life will then play into every other aspect into your life.
Yes, and that's the biggest thing right there.
No,
like,
you said that like you know. I know you know that,
no,
but
I know.
not everybody
No,
knows
what I'm
that.
saying is, going back to having the ball in my court, life is juicy, bro. I'm
Fruit.
trying to get as much juice as I can. I'm trying to squeeze this mug and get as much as I can. And that's why we love entrepreneurship, just like you're talking about, because it gives you the opportunity to enrich. It provides a life of enrichment, because you have to grow. You have to stretch your comfort zone. You have to learn new skill sets. You have to wear different hats. And so, just like we were talking about earlier, the past handful of months, bro, we haven't made a dime. But like you said, how many pats have we given on our back? We wake up every single day fulfilled, and we haven't made a dime. Therefore, that proves that money doesn't provide happiness, but it's the enrichment that fulfills us of what we've done up until this point. It's not the mundane life, living the same life 50, 60, 70 years and calling that a life. That's not a life. That's why we go into zombie mode. That's why we get frustrated, because we're not putting ourselves back against the wall. You know what I mean? And my personal opinion is God put us on this earth for creation, to become creators. You know what I mean? And so that's the biggest thing right there, is
Content
what are we going to
creators.
create is for that self-enrichment. Right. You know what I mean? And that's what keeps people's spirits alive, is having something to fight for.
Well, absolutely, man. And statistics and data prove that, right? Like, the average retirement age is 65, 67 years old. It takes 5 to 10 years after a person retires to, unfortunately, pass away. Why? Because they don't wake up for anything anymore, because majority of people retire and they just like, I worked my entire life, and so I want to enjoy the rest of my years doing nothing. I get that, right? I get it too. I get it too, because think about like when we have a long, stressful week, or we have life hit us and punch us in the face. We automatically are like, yo, I just want to chill, man. I mean, we had a conversation yesterday offline, and that's exactly what we were talking about. Like, man, there are those days to where we just want to. But to do that for the remainder of your life, you're now living a sedentary lifestyle. You're not doing anything that makes your mind to challenge itself. You're not pushing your body. And when you do that, you're actually affecting yourself in the negative. And that's why people die 5 years after they retire. They have nothing to wake up and look for. If you have purpose in your life, life is so much more enjoyable, good, bad, ugly, and everything in between, because you have something to push forward through.
And I love that you said
Come
that,
on,
bro.
man. I'm preaching,
That's
bro.
and you just said that lives, that provides a life being sedentary. And I love that you said that because, we talked about that offline too. Living a sedentary life physically, you can only last like a month or two, right? Like what they talk about with morbidly obese people that literally physically can't get off the couch. And then if you live on the couch and you lay there for so many times, your body deteriorates and you literally pass away from that. You know what I mean? Like when I completely severed my knee, I was in not a cast, but a brace, locked in extension, where I was on bed rest.
Well, don't say you completely severed your knee. You still have both legs.
Well, I didn't sever my
patella
knee,
tendon, right?
which is your knee.
Yeah.
So pretty much severed that.
I know, but I don't want them to
Okay,
fit.
well, long story short, my kneecap was in my thigh. And so I severed that tendon. And so I was in bed rest for literally 3 months. And dude, being sedentary like that, man, my lower back, my main back, my hips, like literally it impacted my whole physical being.
Right.
Well, the number one thing in life is your mind. And so if you have a sedentary mind, if that's what 3 months of laying in a bed does to your physical body, imagine what a lifetime allowing your mind to be sedentary does for
bro.
you. You know what I mean? That just means you're in the coffin before your body.
Yeah.
You have to do something to enrich your mindset and keep you sharp, keep you engaged. And that's what I keep trying to say and preach, that's what provides true happiness, is working your mind, man.
Which is so funny because it's so counterculture,
It
because
is.
we live in America and people just want to be comfortable, and I get the aspect of creating comfortability and providing comfortability for the people that you love, but if you just focus on that and you just get comfortable, then what?
That's why you just gotta
that's why you do hard shit. Whenever we work out at the gym, we do the craziest workouts
bro.
Push ourselves to a whole nother level that probably maybe sometimes aren't even good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I was going to say that
mentally
too.
it is good.
Yes.
Because we're pushing ourselves. We're taking ourselves to the next level. And I think when you go into the gym and I know I've been telling you, but I've been a fiend at running. Like I've gotten into running, long distance, and it's like my new addiction. Yeah. When you do something that forces you to be in control of your mind, like you take your life to a whole nother level. I wholeheartedly believe if you do nothing in life, go to the gym or go running. Because yesterday I was running with a friend, and they couldn't keep up with me. And I'm not saying I'm fast or anything like that, but like they would stop and take breaks. And I was telling her, I was like, well, when I go running, I don't like to pause. Even if like I have a cramp, even if I'm dead tired, I have a rule with myself to where I don't stop and walk. Yeah. Like even if I'm jogging or not walking, but like running, but I might as well be walking. Yeah. I don't do that because I need to be in control. My body is telling me, no, stop. Yeah. You're hurting. Yeah. But if I keep on running, I'm in control. I don't let my feelings, I don't let my emotions rule how I am. And when you put yourself to that level and you understand what you can control, life is easy. But like I said, so counterculture. Because everybody that loves you will tell you, just take it easy. You've been working hard. You've been doing so much. It's okay. You deserve that.
Yeah, don't allow your body to break down. Are you sure you're not pushing yourself too hard? But the thing is, the whole foundation of this mindset of what we're talking about is get to a point where you find comfort in the uncomfortable.
The discomfort,
That's where life happens. That's where amazing things happen. So talking about the gym, like you said, we do stupid rep schemes, man. And what I mean by that is, and I challenge you, if we have any fitness people tuning in, shout out to Will Tennyson, because I got this from him actually with drop sets. And so what a drop set is, if you're doing a lift, let's say bench press, it means you're going to put a certain amount of weight, pretty heavy weight, and say you're going to hit 12 reps. You take off, you go in lower weight, no break, get right back on it, bust out another burnout, take more weight off so it's lighter. Get back under there, no rest, and do as many as you can. Well, he entered a rule where you have to match how many you did the first time to an absolute burnout. Not mentally quitting on yourself, but to you physically can't go anymore. Absolute failure. And then there's no breaks. You strip the weight, but you have to match that number. So say you got to 27 the first time. You strip the weight. You have to get to 27 the second time. Now, our rule is we can't take no breaks. If we physically can't, because we literally can't a lot of times, we only get 3 seconds of rest. And we're on each other about that. 3 seconds, boom, get back on it. I can only do 2 more, but you have to get to 27. Strip that weight, and then your third time, get in 27. And then we've implemented that mindset with our whole style of lifting. We do at least one lift like that mindset every single time. And I've been lifting for 26 years almost, something like that, 24, 25, 26 years. So I've done every rep scheme. I've done a lot of different splits, a lot of different training styles, but it's not even, obviously this does propel your aesthetics, right? Like obviously if you're doing any type of exercise,
the byproduct is the strength aspect and the physical.
Exactly. But for us, what I love and what keeps me engaged every single day, and it sucks, dude. It sucks in the moment. We literally get pissed off. Like, fuck, this is stupid. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you get up and it's like, God, that was stupid, but I love it. You know what I mean? We're like, gosh dang it. And that's what keeps us coming back for more. Like, what are we going to do today to freaking destroy ourselves? You know what I mean? But that same mindset is what you can take and apply to anything and everything. Actually, I'll take it a step further. That's what propels my mindset in other arenas. I go to that place when I want to give up, when I can't get anymore, when I only get 3 seconds of rest. Now I know, since I'm putting my body and my mind in that distress and I push through, I now know what that actually feels like. And so when I'm stretching myself outside of fitness, whether it's entrepreneurship or I'm put in uncomfortable situations, I take my mind there and I'm like, I know what this feels like. I know how to operate here. It's okay. Push through. Just keep going. Get to the other side. And then I get to that other side and it's the biggest high in life. And that's why we live like that. It's fun, it engages, but it keeps us uncomfortable, which keeps our mindsets engaged, which gives us our best health that we can ultimately have.
And that's exactly why I said life, the things that you go through in life are 100% relatable to everything else that you do and go through in life.
Exactly, man.
So go do hard shit.
Yeah. And that's
go run, go in the gym at the very least. Like,
just do it.
Yeah.
Do it. And that's what I'll wrap up on. You know what I mean? That's what I want to actually tell you guys is to just, if you take anything from this episode moving forward, I hope that you find that spirit. I hope that we've added value today, but just that right there, find something that challenges you. Find something that can get you outside of your comfort zone that you can accomplish. Yeah. If you're one of the people that don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, or if whatever the case may be, find a side hustle. Find a hobby that you can actually get into, not just a hobby like I do this, but find something that you're passionate about and go after that, because we need to live enriched lives, man. We can't live the life of depression is the highest, in life that it has ever been. Just so many mental illnesses, physical illnesses. And I truly believe it starts with this type of mindset. You know what I mean? And that's the number one value that I just want people to see. And that's why here we are rolling out our company, diving into leadership, because leadership as leaders, this is why we're getting into this space, is because we want to help bring this out of you guys. We want, the clients that we take on, people in corporate America, sports, athletes, one-on-ones, we're going to be coaching individuals. This all stems from leadership. You know what I mean? Going back to the beginning of this episode, we talked about the fact of the difference between managers and leaders is the managers aren't sharpening the people. They're not growing the people. That's where we want to fill that gap, man. We want to help people develop this mindset. We want to pull greatness out of people. We want to lead people no matter what endeavor you are on, no matter what you want to get into life, because success principles are success principles are success principles. And we want to lead in that, pull that out of anybody and everybody. You know what I mean? And that's why we have the entrepreneurial endeavor right now where we're not just after money. That's actually the last thing. So many people, we do live in an entrepreneurial world today. That's what social media tells us. Start your business, get wealthy, drive the Benzes, live in the mansions, and stuff like that. And I'm here for the end game and the result. But I'm not going to get there by throwing a half slappy course online
right.
to try to get as much cash flow as I can.
Right.
No, we literally want to help enrich lives, add value. Hence the name of our company, Valueship Consulting Group, Valued Up Podcast. We know that wealth is always on the backside. Yeah. Wealth will always be a byproduct of doing the right things. One of our favorite influencers, of all time that we're listening to right now, Myron Golden, talks about if you obsess over other people's problems as much as your own problems and come up with a solution, you will always be wealthy. Yeah. Wealth will always be a byproduct of adding value to other people. You know what I mean? And so that's why we invite you in. Here, you get to see the ground floor, the basement level of building Valueship. It's going to be huge. I just know it. I'm excited for it. I want to impact as many lives as people, but that's why we wanted to even start this podcast, because we want you guys to see what it looks like. We already failed with the first podcast. That's why we wanted to show you guys that we want to be living proof of what we're actually talking about. And that's why we want to be vulnerable, lift the curtain open, so it gives you belief. It gives you hope of whatever it is that's been speaking to you, whatever it is that's been telling you to go step out. Forget everything else, push everything else aside, forget other people's opinions, forget other people that want to hold you down, forget your self-doubts, forget your own self-deleting beliefs, and just go out and do. And we're holding hands right now with all of you. Let's go out together, and we'll show you through living proof what that attitude and mindset actually looks like.
Yeah, and I feel like I definitely felt it from today's conversation already.
For sure,
I don't even need or want to piggyback off of that, man, because it's just ditto, bro.
We're just gonna keep going.
We're
gonna keep going. Yeah. And I would love
you either be a part of it,
yes,
for yourself, and along the journey with us, or you're gonna watch, and then you're gonna see what that turns into, and then you can make that decision, or or it's the law of diminishing intent. Yeah. I already let that time pass me, so I might as well just stay where I'm at.
The longer you wait to do something, the less likely chance you have of actually doing that one thing. That's
so
why it's
do
paramount.
It now.
So do it. Be on your Nike. Do it now. Just do it. And we got this. Come alongside with this. I want you guys, comment. Throw comments in the description.
I would like this. Below. DM us on what
I'm saying.
You want to do, or what we're helping you identify, like, oh man, I didn't think I could actually do this, but I'm going to take a step and, follow my dreams. I want to hear about that,
because we want to community.
Yeah. We want to edify you. We want to encourage you in the best way that we absolutely can, but we just want y'all to make that jump for you. That doesn't impact our lives other than the fact of us adding value. We're seeing the responses of that, but we want you to take that jump for literally you, your future self, your future family, the people around you, because that's what makes the world better. That's what makes the economy better. That's what makes your neighborhood better, is people that go and pursue excellence on themselves. Other people can feel that, right? Because that's where influence lies. Leadership, it starts with you.
Yep, exactly. So appreciate the conversation, man.
Loved it.
And that's exactly, this is not just conversational purposes for entertainment. This is a community. We want you to come along with us. So definitely let us know. You know what I mean? Let us know what that whisper has been. Let us know what that ultimate screaming internal spirit has told you, and let's get after it. No more waiting, and we want to know what that looks like. We're coming with you. This is a community. We want that. That's why we started this. It's not about having a conversation in the living room. We're having this because of the outreach. The outreach right now, it's only us. We can impact us in this living room. That's why I said this isn't for entertainment purposes. It's to get the outreach of and make that impact as much as we can. So we appreciate y'all. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week. And hey, stay valued up.
Valued up. Let go.
Boom.